Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory be to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakah Kudash. And I want to say double honors to the apostles and the elders, great millstone that rule well. Blessings to the hopeful elect out there listening and learning and teaching this word in all sincerity and truth, in a sincere hopes that we may edify and feed the lambs of Yahweh Shai, especially in these last days. And, pretty much, in this lesson, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up with a scripture, which is located in 2nd Ezra 6 and 22. And it reads, "And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. The full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty." Alright, and there's a reason why I opened up with that scripture, because we're coming to a time of, an extreme lack of availability of food and water. On the screen here, what you see is CBS Evening News, which I was watching, and I saw it just pop up on the algorithm on the TV. After I finished work, I said to myself, well, let me just unwind and see what's going on in the news, because we're commanded to be watchmen. All right, so we gotta watch the news, alternative news, and pretty much stay circumspect, like the Apostle Paul. How he warned us to be circumspect, which the word circumspect means to look around. And as you can see on the screen here, it says communities share how they are fighting hunger amid growing crisis. Aid cuts. All right, so without further ado, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play you a little bit of this. I'm gonna jump back and forth because I kind of paused it here at the 6 minutes and 14 second mark, because I want to let you see what this woman says here, and show you the despair that people are, the state of mind that people are in these last days, and the despair that's going to happen, when all hell breaks loose, and the lack of availability of food and water, gets more and more extreme. And you can imagine, the response from the people in these cities, are going to be going buck wild. Now people are turning to non-profit food rescue workers, to relieve hunger nationwide. You got students, that are pretty much planning their their studies around when to go and pretty much get free food from pantries that are being handed out by other students at universities. This is actually happening, and that's why I opened up with that scripture. It says, "And the trumpet shall give a sound, which when every man heareth, they shall be suddenly afraid. And at that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies." It's like a dog-eat-dog, Reservoir Dog scenario where people are gonna, be going at it, because of the lack of availability of the food. So fair use. I'm not making any money from this video. This is purely for educational purposes. Fair use. All right, check this out.
Served in the Air Force says when her food stamps run low, this is what fills the fridge.
You may not think it, but you never know when you might be in this position. And I'm telling you, not knowing where your food is going to come from, not knowing when you're going to eat.
You hear that? And, when your food stamps run low, this is where people are going to have to be turning, not knowing where your food is going to come from. This is what she said. There's going to come a time where a lot more people, not just, not this woman that you see on the screen. There's going to be a lot more people in this scenario very, very soon. See, right now you can go to the supermarket and you can pick up this and you can pick up that. You can put it in your trolleys, in your basket, and you can scan it and you can pay, but there's going to come a time where they're going to push out that chip, the RFID chip, which is the mark of the beast spoken of in Revelation 13 and 16 on down. And that's going to be a reaction to the chaos that's going to be consuming these cities, man, when people go buck wild. And they're going to be setting up these shipping stations, like the scripture says, and no man might buy or sell Save he that had the mark. So there's you ain't gonna be able to make any forms of transaction, basically. And what are the people gonna do then?
It's very hard, and we are appreciative.
You see, and Eve is feeling it now, man. You hear what she said?
Her food stamps run low. This is what fills the fridge.
You may not think it, but you never know when you might be in this position. And I'm telling you, not knowing where your food is going to come from, not knowing what you're going to eat, it's hard.
And she's sincere. You can see, like, she's welling up. She's got tears in her eyes, man. Like, you can see how her eyes are welling up. Like, let me zoom in on them eyes there. She said, no, when you gonna eat, like, you can see that she's about to cry. Like, and you see the man, and this is a time where she can actually rely, on these non-profit organizations to feed her and that. And Trump, he's hitting them food stamps hard. What the scriptures speak about when the vintage shall fail. Let's get that in so I can see what the Spirit's doing here. These women, man, you women are gonna catch it the most. Isaiah 32, that's the one. Let me get Isaiah 32 here. Right? It says Isaiah 32 and 9. It says, rise up, ye women that are at ease, hear my voice, ye careless daughters. Right? And you got a lot of these women that have been at ease, man. You see them on Fresh and Fit podcast. You see them, getting spoken about by these red pill podcasters, or whether it's Pearly, or Pearl, or she changed her name to Pearl now on social media, but Pearly Things. They used to go on her podcast. They used to, and pretty much they be getting cut. These women, they be getting cut. These so-called modern women be getting cut, because the word woman, I say so-called woman because the word woman means servant, and these women have been pretty much living it up in Babylon, been living an easy life, embracing feminism, being ahead of the man. They love that position, but now that they're starting to really see what Trump is doing and cutting off their availability to just shake their ass without a care in the world, that's coming to an end. Cutting off them food stamps and that and whatever, the big beautiful bill that's been spoken of, the draconian measures that are being pushed, they're coming hot and heavy, thick and fast. So be prepared, right? It says, give ear unto my speech. Many days and years shall you be troubled, ye careless women. For the vintage shall fail, the gathering shall not come. Okay? Tremble, ye women that are at ease, be troubled, ye careless ones. Strip you and make you bare, and gird sackcloth upon your loins. Let me go from there to Isaiah 65 as well. So this is what's coming, man. Scripture says, she that is my enemy shall see it, and now shall she be trodden down as the mire of the streets. So the Lord is really about to make a move, especially on you women, man. That you like to go around the authority of the man. Okay, that this is all coming to an end. But let me go ahead and pull it back to the beginning, and I want to show you what's going on in some of these universities, man. These students. You got these students that are turned into pantries just to feed themselves. Check this out.
I'm okay with that, as long as we get those 7 who did need it. What kind of load does that lift off of you?
Oh, huge.
For Erin Cashin,
A dozen eggs.
she's stretching her dollars, but only taking what she needs.
Pasta.
You're being aware of everyone else who is in this struggle with you.
I think that's kind of what comes with the gift economy. Let me make sure I leave some behind for the next person.
No regrets, no stigma, and one very big benefit.
It absolutely affects my academic performance. It would definitely affect mental health.
I know you got a lot of these women going to these colleges, man, and a lot of these colleges, these universities, they're just an education for these women to, or sexual experiences, for these women to just go out there and I'm independent, and sleep with as many men as they can in their dorms, and this is what it does, and and ultimately, man, a lot of these AI, with the in the surge of AI and all these computer systems, what Esau's pushing out, a lot of these students are finding out that their degrees and stuff, they themselves are becoming obsolete in the modern society because the AI is taking over. The scriptures speak about when the grinders cease. You know, the scriptures speak about that. The door shall be shut in the streets when the grinders. Was that Ecclesiastes? I want to say it's Ecclesiastes 12. Let's get that one. Ecclesiastes 12 and 3 says, "In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease." And you got Jake who was talking about, "Oh, I'm on my grind. I'm just grinding." The grinders represent your workers, okay? And the grinders, it says the grinders shall cease. Why? Because you got AI taking up all these jobs. You got going to these supermarkets. You don't even, it's hard to really get a human's attention, because the lack of availability of staff members on the floor in different aisles and that. Especially when you go to the checkout, mostly it's done by, computers. You got to scan it yourself, and it's all automated. You pay by card or whatever. All right, and that's another thing. They're phasing out cash as well in all of these systems. You're seeing that, card machine only. I've been seeing that as well. You go to the supermarket, you be seeing card payments only. So they're getting people, primed and ready for the chip. Being able to pay through a digital system. All right, so it says, "And the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out the windows be darkened. And the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low." You see that? And the doors shall be shut in the streets, man. What does it say here on the screen? "On campus pantries combating food insecurity." There's food insecurity, right? Food insecurity is at an all-time high. And this is on campus, man. This is at university.
Being able to do this.
That's certainly food for thought. Elise Preston, CBS News, Davis, California.
It's over. It's over for this place.
Student farm and donated to the pantry.
$1 today buys a third of the commodities that it bought when I was in school.
You hear that? She said $1 today buys a third of the commodities, right, that it bought when I was in school. That's what she just said. All right, and that reminds me of the inflation scripture in the black horse spoken of in Revelation 6. Okay, in Revelation 6 and 5, it says, "And when he opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, 'Come and see.' And he beheld, and lo, a black horse. And he that sat upon him had a pair of balances in his hand." And when you go into that word balances, in the Greek is zygos, which means like a yoke, but it's also like balances, like represents judgment too. So we're in a time of judgment. The black horse, death, destruction, judgment. This is the time that we're in, right? "And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say," all right, it says, "A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny." All right, when you're dealing with wheat and barley, that's actually dealing with food. And when you're dealing with a penny, it's talking about what? The denarion back in the time of Rome. All right, they used to have a denarion, which was supposed to be, a daily wage for a soldier. Okay. And pretty much, it's speaking about inflation, dealing with the price of the food and, the price of the food. Notice I said the price, which is the penny, and then the food, the wheat and the barley. So that food is going to be affected in these last days. It's Satan, man. This fucking dog won't shut his mouth. All right. He's barking down the street, man, in the middle of the video. Anyways, it says, "See thou hurt not the oil and the wine." All right, and the oil, you need oil to cook. Okay, the oil and the wine also represents, knowledge, understanding, the truth. All right, but you need oil, to cook your food. And wine as well. You drink wine. Sometimes people even cook with wine. All right, but it's dealing with the inflation. Okay. In fact, let's go into that word penny and see what it should be. Denarion in the it should be denarion in the Greek. Yep, denarion. It says denarius, containing 10. Right, a Roman silver coin in the New Testament time. It took its name from being equal to 10 asses. A number after 2017 BC increased to 16. All right, so that's dealing with inflation. All right, and you got these, bankers, these elite banking families starting with or these Edomites starting with, the elite banking families, the Rothschilds, Rockefellers. You best believe it. They're gonna collapse the global economy, man. All right, and the impact is gonna be heavy. All right, they want people pretty much dependent on the system. That's what Morpheus said in the Matrix. Many of these people are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system that they will fight to protect it. So what do you think is going to happen in these cities when these people go to protect this system? As they see, the growing crisis, people fighting hunger, and food insecurity on the rise. People are going to go buck wild out here, okay? And you got this guy, he goes around and he goes to certain restaurants and he just or supermarkets, and he collects food waste and he just, he sells them on. All right, I don't know if does he sell them on or does he give it out or whatever. All right, but look at these subheadings: mum buys bare minimum, some with 6-figure income. You see how they're queuing up? Let's go to this one. Let's see what this one says here.
In terms of
Let me just gotta get rid of this. Let me mute it. Let me mute it right here. Get rid of this advert. All right. But in fact, while I'm getting rid of this advert, I had a scripture. I didn't read Isaiah 65, so let's go back there quick. Isaiah 65 and 13, and it says, therefore thus saith the Lord Yahweh power, behold my servant shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. Behold my servant shall drink, but ye shall be thirsty. Behold my servant shall rejoice, but ye shall be ashamed. So the elect are gonna eat and drink. The elect are gonna be all right, man. That's why the scripture says, what does the scripture say about oh man, wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times and strength for salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. So, we're coming to that. And you see, this get a stupid adverts. You got Jake dancing around. Jake's just gonna party and bullshit until the end. All right, until they're introduced to their bitter end. All right, and they are gonna be introduced to a bitter end. I'm talking about you unbelievers out there. And remember, the scripture says, the same must know it after death by pain. Let's go into this.
Impact of inflation most clearly these days at the grocery store, but you can also see it at food banks, where people who never dreamed they'd need it are turning for help. Even some with 6-figure incomes are struggling to feed their families.
Some with 6-figure incomes are turning to food banks to feed their families, man. All right, and so Jake's doing bad because Jake is at the bottom. That's why when it all goes down, you see who's gonna feel it the most. All right, it's gonna be these so-called middle class, upper class, Edomites and that or whatever, these other nations. They're gonna be feeling it because Jake's been at the bottom. When Jacob's trouble comes, Jake's gonna catch hell. But at the end of the day, they've been marinating in poverty for the longest time. And these other nations, they're definitely gonna feel it, especially these so-called middle class. They got the 6-figure incomes and that. Now they're queuing up in food banks. And the same thing happened during the COVID. You saw food banks open. When the economy got hit after the COVID, off the back of that, you saw food banks, the so-called middle class queuing up in lines, going to food banks to get food to feed their families, man. Come on, man.
Nice.
This is the end. You thought that voting in Trump was going to save you, man. But look what's going on. Things seem to be getting worse. You got ICE, you got fucking riots, uproars of the people, protests in Mexico over what's going on. Kicking the Edomites out their restaurant, saying "Gringo, go home," and then you got, alligator Alcatraz. You got all kind of alligator bait Alcatraz. You got all kinds of shit happening. All right, the scripture says, that the devil's about to come down on you having great wrath because he knoweth that you have but a short time. Come on, man. Look at the time we're in.
Drossman has tonight's Eye on America from Wallingford, Connecticut.
Forget the image you may have of people who are hungry. In America, hunger is now as mobile as this food bank serving a line 60 deep in Connecticut.
Being under financial stress takes a lot of time, a lot of planning. Sometimes
Take Chandra Kelsey, grocery shopping on a tight budget for her family of 5.
it's whatever's on sale.
We just read Isaiah 65. The Lord said, my servant shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. You see that? So the elect, man, this is why, look, we're doing what we do because we want to be protected in these last days. See, the Lord said, my servant shall eat. Hey, the Lord can feed you whatever way he deems fit, man. Whether it's being fed by a raven, like the scriptures speak about in Kings. He had Elijah getting fed by ravens, that brought him cooked meat. The Lord, had Elijah drink out of the brook. Come on, man. Like these things, these miracle, interactions, are going to take place. The scripture says, a time like no other since there was a nation. So be prepared for miracles like no other. Be prepared. That's why we have to keep the faith, man. All right? And while these people are out here scrimping and saving and begging and, trying to feed their families, man, we're just focused on the word. We're focused on prophecy, man. You know what I'm saying? We're very, very focused on what's going on. We're staying circumspect.
Food insecurity eats at her. A lifelong trauma.
You remember going to food banks?
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
The first time I did it, I cried. To be in a position where you are doing okay and then you lose everything the next day.
See, these women will be tearing up. See how they be tearing up, man. See how reality is confronting them. And they're having to face the reality of the fact that they're actually not okay. They're not going to be okay. They're not doing okay. All right, got pictures of babies in the background and that and whatever. And then cannibalism's coming back. You're gonna have women eating their children in these last days. Men, fathers eating their children. Just like in the Book of Kings again. In the time of famine, people get desperate. People. What did the Joker say in The Dark Knight? These civilized people, when the chips are down, they'll eat each other. Come on.
It's humbling. It's scary.
Ooh, it's humbling. What did you say? It's humbling, man. See, right now, people can sit around the dinner table. They can cheers, have a toast, make little speeches. Yeah, clickety clank. You got the knife and forks, the cutlery out. You know what I'm saying? They smiling at one another across the dinner table. They're stuffing their guts, right? While you got people that have been starving on a planet, for the longest time, man. Dealing with malnutrition, dealing with death, dealing with the threat of war, dealing with the loss of limbs, dealing with families dying like every day, and now it's coming to Babylon the Great. This is what I'm saying. See, the Lord is not playing, man. You look at this image, you see these people, yeah, man, living it up. But then guess what? Now that same woman in that picture, she just got brought to tears. This one, so man, you better understand what's going on, man. You gotta know what time it is.
And yet you'd never suspect Need has lived with his family.
Household income is roughly
$150. 2 people working full time.
It's 150 grand, 2 people working, and she's got to go to food banks, man. And the more money, these people are making out here, it doesn't matter. Like, it's the higher their expenses are, because they live a certain type of quality of life. So their children might go to private schools if they can afford it, or this and that. And they're gonna have to start making cutbacks, and they want to keep up with the Joneses, the neighbors, affluent neighborhoods, suburban neighborhoods. You see in these Edomites, their business failed, and the things that they were used to, outgoings that were used to coming out, the direct debits, they can't keep up with. They're gonna have to start making cuts, and that's why they're making cuts in the food. That's why they're gonna have food banks, man. You see how the curses are being transferred to our enemies now? You see what's going on, you see what the Lord's doing. So when you see these things, man, say Barakatah Yahweh Bashem Yahushai and just rejoice, man, because we've been suffering for the longest. And now our enemies are beginning to feel it, man. Okay?
Sometimes I work 2 jobs.
How can you make $150,000 and be food insecure?
That's not what you bring home after taxes. We have mortgage, insurance.
You see? Mortgage, quality of lifestyle, insurance, this and that. Everything going up. All right? And the direct debits that they used to coming out of their bank accounts, they're realizing, oh shit, we're gonna have to make cut. So look, man, it's done, man. It's over. Okay? And this is just an example of a family. We saw the students. We saw that Jake woman. She was tearing up as well. You women that have been at ease, man, your time's coming.
1 kid on their way to college, 1 in college. Something as small as $1,000 expense could throw things off significantly.
You see that? $1,000 expense that can throw things off significantly. So these lifestyles, these lifestyles their lifestyles are coming to an end. What's that gonna do on the strain of the family? More arguments, domestic violence, people losing the plot, short-tempered. Because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. People are gonna be more easily stressed out, more easily triggered at work, out of work. while they're queuing up at the bank, queuing up at the supermarkets, stressed out, got demons on them because they can't, do the things that they were used to doing, man. Things are costing more. They can't, shit, man. The plans that they had, the holidays that they used to take, they're having to cut back on and stuff like that. So, it's going to cause them to get stressed. And that's going to have a rippling effect, okay, on the people out here. Let's close out with 2nd Ezra's. I'll close out with 2nd Ezra's 15 here. And let me start from 14. Well, it says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein. Right? It says, for the sword and the destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. Alright? Because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. People are going to go at each other. They'll eat each other. They'll fight each other. They'll kill each other. To protect their families, to protect themselves. You're going to see that real beast-like nature come out of people. Yeah, you might see like some, I don't know, a librarian or whatever, and then in that time he just becomes the worst killer. And he's got like 10 bodies on him because he's basically just trying to feed himself. He's just trying to feed or he's something just kicked in and he's just like, I'm taking care of me and mine. This is what's gonna happen. Factions are gonna start being formed, like they show you in these post-apocalyptic movies. It says for there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. People are gonna be getting invaded, man. Homes getting invaded, broken into, women getting raped, daughters getting grabbed up, captured, raped, never seeing family members ever again, just disappearing people, like the purge. They should not regard their kings nor princes. Yeah, they ain't gonna care about the government in that day. Like you see him with ICE right now, what's going on? You see these people are going buck wild. They don't give a fuck. Okay? And the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. You're going to have them checkpoints. You're going to have people desiring to go from one place to another. And they're going to be access denied because they don't have the chip or whatever. All right? Or they've been flagged as being potentially dangerous. There's a new pestilence in the air. And have you had your vaccine? Have you had your shot? I mean, these things are going to start happening. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled. The houses shall be destroyed and men shall be afraid. And you know what? What we're witnessing right now is them labor pains, man. We're just witnessing these contractions. Okay? And we're waiting for the baby to be delivered, which is the destruction, which goes in hand with the salvation of the elect when Yahushua comes back with the holy angels to lay this place waste. When I say this place, I'm talking about, Babylon the Great, which is America. Woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord. To what end is it for you? The day of the Lord is darkness and not light, even very dark and no brightness in it. Like Brightburn, And he was on taking the world. Yahushua is going to be taken over. He's going to put down all rule and all authority. Like the scripture says, for he must reign till he have put all enemies under his feet. And Esau, he's the top enemy, right, of the nation of Israel. So he's on the hit list. So when Yahushua comes back, and all these other nations, the Lord said he's going to fill the places with the dead bodies, man. That's in the scriptures. So for you guys talking about the good book, God's good all the time, just read the scriptures, and understand that, death and destruction and woes are in the Bible. The lamentations, mournings, and woes of the Bible. It's all in there, man. All right. So, anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom, shalom.